Z, do you love us? Can you come get us? Cause we wanna ride around the town with you. Cause we miss you and we love you, Z. To your daddy.
We begin with the 12 News Update. Zverian Brent, a man wanted in connection to the shooting death of Terrencia Jackson, is now behind bars. He was arrested by U.S. Marshals earlier this afternoon. Jackson was shot and killed while lying in her bed on Fleetwood Drive Tuesday. Another man was also shot and was taken to the hospital.
In a world where love can turn into rage and trust can shatter in an instant, the story of Terrencia Jackson stands as a chilling reminder of how quickly life can spiral into tragedy. She was just 26 years old, a daughter, a sister, a friend, and most importantly, a mother. Terrencia wasn't just living, she was dreaming. However, love has a price to be paid, and Terrencia paid it dearly with her life. The story gets worse. The person accused of killing her wasn't a stranger. It was the man she had once loved, the same man she had recently left, the same man she had protected herself from. What began as a troubled relationship had turned into a nightmare of control, threats, and fear. Terrencia had just started to rebuild her life. She had walked away. But in a shocking and brutal turn, the man she feared most broke into her home and shattered her world forever, firing multiple shots and ending her life in front of another man. What could drive someone to end the life of a vibrant young mother? Was it jealousy, a bruised ego, a love that turned toxic? Could this really be about unfaithfulness, or is there something deeper, more disturbing beneath the surface? And yet, if we only focus on how Terrencia Jackson died, we lose sight of something far more important. We lose the essence of who she was. Her final moments don't define her story. To truly understand the tragedy, we have to step back, to look past the headlines, the crime scene, the heartbreak, and see the woman behind the name. Born on May 12, 1996 in Jackson, Mississippi, Terrencia was the second of 8 children in a tightly knit family. In a household filled with chatter, shared meals, and sibling rivalry, she grew up surrounded by love and loyalty. Her parents instilled values that became the foundation of who she was. Stay close, look after one another, and never walk away when things get hard. From an early age, she found a second home in her local church. But she wasn't just a face in the pews. Terrencia had a presence. She sang in the choir with a voice full of warmth, joined the youth ministry with purpose, and was always the first to raise her hand when someone needed help. These moments shaped her. Church didn't just give her a place to belong, it gave her purpose. It molded her into someone who led with compassion, who believed in doing right even when no one was watching, and who never stopped trying to lift others up. Terrencia attended Provine High School, right there in the heart of Jackson. She wasn't the type to chase the spotlight or stack up trophies, but what she did collect were bonds that lasted. Her classmates didn't remember her for loud moments or big drama. They remembered her for her presence. Quiet, grounded, genuine. She didn't speak just to be heard, but when she did, people listened. One friend described her simply. Terrencia had this calm strength. She was real. You could trust her. After high school, she landed a job at UPS. For some, it might have just been a paycheck, but not for Terrencia. That job meant stability. It meant progress. It was her way of carving out a better life, brick by brick. She showed up early, stayed late, never made excuses. Her co-workers saw it in her eyes. She was focused, dependable, and determined. Every shift she worked was a step towards something bigger. But above all, Terrencia's greatest role wasn't at work. It was at home, with her daughter, Zverian. Being a mother wasn't just part of her life, it was her life. Everything she did, every sacrifice, every hard decision, was driven by love for that little girl. Her face would light up when she talked about her. Whether it was bedtime stories, cooking the family's favorite recipes, or just holding her close after a long day, Terrencia poured every ounce of her heart into motherhood. Her own mother put it best. Everything Terrencia did was for that little girl. She just wanted Zverian to have a good life. Terrencia found beauty in the little things. She didn't need luxury or lavish getaways to feel alive. A simple road trip, a weekend outing, even a quick shopping run, when she was with the people she loved, that was enough. Her laughter, loud, warm, unforgettable, became the soundtrack of every family gathering. People say it could fill a room and lift even the heaviest hearts. She knew how to make moments special, not with money, but with meaning. In a world obsessed with status, Terrencia was proof that true joy doesn't come with a price tag. But life wasn't always bright. Behind the smiles, Terrencia faced struggles, like anyone else. One of the most complicated chapters was her past relationship with a man named Zverian Brent. The relationship had ended. For Terrencia, it was time to move on, and that's exactly what she was doing, rebuilding her life piece by piece. She had found someone new. She was working hard, raising her daughter, and allowing herself to hope again, for peace, for happiness, for love. What she didn't see was the storm quietly forming behind her. She had once been in a relationship with Brent, but as time went on, Terrencia decided to call it quits. Brent couldn't let go. His jealousy festered in silence. While Terrencia looked to the future, he remained trapped in the past, and what started as bitterness would soon spiral into something far more dangerous. In the weeks leading up to June 7, 2022, the danger lurking behind Terrencia's renewed happiness was already taking shape. Phone records would later reveal Brent's obsessive pattern. Dozens of calls in a single evening, some lasting mere seconds before she hung up, others ringing unanswered. Friends recall seeing Brent's number flash across her screen so frequently that she began silencing her phone at night. Even then, his persistence left no room for rest. On the morning of June 7th, Brent moved with chilling calculation. Surveillance footage from a nearby intersection captured a dark sedan peeling away, unusual for anyone not on the graveyard shift. Brent wasn't dressed for work. He wore dark clothing and gloves. He carried nothing in plain sight that day, but investigators later confirmed he concealed a loaded semi-automatic pistol under his jacket. Every detail, his route through the quiet streets, his choice of gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints, spoke of premeditation. In few minutes, he had reached Fleetwood Drive. The neighborhood was still asleep. Streetlights cast long shadows across manicured lawns. Brent parked 3 houses down from Terrencia's home and approached on foot, moving silently along the hedge-lined sidewalk. Later, he reached the back door, a window pane shattered from the inside weeks earlier but left unrepaired. Prying the door fully open required little effort. Terrencia had once complained about that latch to a coworker, calling it wonky. He slipped inside, pausing only to check his phone's flashlight before pocketing it. The beam would have given him away. Inside, the house was dark and still. The only sound was the ticking of the hallway clock. Brent's hand brushed against the living room furniture, guiding him toward the bedroom where he knew Terrencia would be. He moved without hesitation, as if following a familiar blueprint. In forensic interviews, detectives noted that the path he took, from the back door, past the kitchen table, through the hallway, was identical to one he had memorized during happier times. This was no stray act of violence. It was the culmination of months of rage quietly simmering. Reaching the bedroom door, Brent paused. Inside, he could see the faint glow of a phone charging on the nightstand and the silhouette of Terrencia's new partner, asleep on his back. Terrencia lay beside him, her back turned, breathing softly. In that moment of hesitation, he had a choice: to confront, to beg, or to leave. The choice he made would be the final one. Brent drew the gun. The weight of it seemed to anchor his decision. He raised it to eye level and took a single, steady breath, long enough for the forensic pathologist later to determine his heart rate had slowed to a near-resting pace. Then he squeezed the trigger. The first shot rang out with deafening suddenness, shattering the pre-dawn stillness. Neighbors later reported hearing, through closed windows, 5 precise pops, each separated by barely a second. Brent didn't spray bullets indiscriminately. He fired in bursts of 2, paused, then fired again. The pattern spoke of control, not chaos. Inside the bedroom, Terrencia never had the chance to scream. The first round struck her new partner in the shoulder, throwing him halfway off the bed. As he cried out, Brent's second burst found Terrencia in the chest. One of the bullets pierced her heart, another lodged in her lung, tearing tissue with lethal precision. She slumped forward onto the mattress, her fingers brushing the sheets, as if reaching for something, anything, to hold on to. Her partner, bleeding and panicked, tried to crawl toward the hallway. Brent followed, stepping over Terrencia's still form. With cold deliberation, he pressed the barrel to her partner's temple and fired one final shot, then turned and strode out the way he had entered. Behind him, Terrencia's labored breath slowed to silence. Moments later, a neighbor dialed 911 after hearing the fragmented volley of gunfire and a wounded man's groans. Police arrived within minutes to find the scene frozen in horror. Shell casings aligned like ominous markers, blood pooling beneath the bed, and Terrencia's lifeless eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Paramedics rushed her partner to the hospital. Despite his critical wounds, he would survive. But for Terrencia Jackson, there was no rescue. Her life had been extinguished in the space she once called home. Police entered the house cautiously. What they found inside shocked even the most experienced officers. A young woman, 26-year-old Terrencia Jackson, lay on the floor, not moving. There was blood around her, and it was clear she had been shot. Next to her was a man, her boyfriend, badly wounded but still alive. He was holding his arm, bleeding and shaking. The air inside was thick and quiet, heavy with the smell of gunpowder and panic. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They tried to save Terrencia, but it was too late. She was gone. The man was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. As the ambulance drove away, the first whispers started spreading through the neighborhood. Soon, yellow crime scene tapes surrounded the home. Police officers moved around quickly, collecting evidence and asking questions. Some neighbors peeked through curtains. Others stood outside, stunned, unable to believe what was happening just a few houses away. South Haven wasn't the kind of place where this happened. At least, that's what many thought. The news reached Terrencia's family quickly. Her mother rushed to the scene. When officers confirmed that it was her daughter who had been killed, she let out a cry that could be heard down the street. "Not my baby," she cried. "Please, not my baby girl." Her legs gave way, and family members had to hold her up. That moment, the pain, the shock, the disbelief, stayed with everyone who witnessed it. Within hours, the crime was being talked about all over town. Local news crews arrived and began reporting live from the scene. Terrencia's photo appeared on television screens and social media feeds. She had been a bright, hardworking young woman. Her death didn't make sense. When police confirmed that Brent, Terrencia's ex-boyfriend, was the suspect, people were even more shocked. Many couldn't understand how someone who once claimed to love her could be capable of such violence. Some of Terrencia's friends spoke out, saying she had tried to get away from Brent. She had even asked the court for protection, but it hadn't come in time. As more people learned what had happened, grief turned into anger. Online, posts began pouring in, pictures of Terrencia, messages of love, and calls for justice. The hashtag #Justice for Terrencia quickly spread. People weren't just mourning her, they were demanding answers. At a candlelight vigil held just 2 days after her death, dozens of people gathered in front of her home. They lit candles, said prayers, and shared memories. Her co-workers from UPS spoke about her kindness and her smile. One woman said, "She was the kind of person who made you feel better just by being around." Community leaders also began speaking out. They asked how Brent had been allowed to get so close to Terrencia after she had tried to protect herself legally. "This is a failure of the system," one activist said. "She asked for help. She didn't get it. Now she's gone." The police, too, felt the pressure. They promised a full investigation. Detectives worked day and night, reviewing surveillance footage, collecting forensic evidence, and tracking down leads. Brent had disappeared after the shooting, and a manhunt began. His face was everywhere, on news channels, posters, and highway billboards. He was considered armed and dangerous. In churches, people prayed. In schools and offices, people talked about Terrencia, many of them asking how something like this could have happened in their own community. Some admitted they had seen warning signs. Others shared their own stories of abuse or threats that had been ignored. As the days passed, the shock didn't fade. It deepened. The more people learned about Terrencia, the single mother, the hard worker, the daughter who called her mom every day, the more real and painful her loss became. She wasn't just a news story. She was someone they had known, someone who should still be alive. Detectives immediately looked into Terrencia's background and relationships. It didn't take long for one name to stand out: Brent, her ex-boyfriend. The two had a past relationship that had ended badly. In fact, just a few weeks before her death, Terrencia had filed an order of protection against Brent, stating that she feared for her life. Court documents confirmed this. Terrencia had gone to the authorities seeking help because she believed Brent posed a threat to her. This piece of information quickly made Brent the prime suspect in the case. At that point, investigators began searching for Brent. He was nowhere to be found. Authorities put out a warrant for his arrest, and his photo was released to the public. It showed a man with a beard and dreadlocks, 26 years old, like Terrencia. He was officially wanted for first-degree murder. U.S. Marshals joined the manhunt. The search didn't stop. The case received media coverage, and social media posts about Terrencia's death spread quickly. People in Mississippi and surrounding states began sharing Brent Brown's image, urging others to help catch him. On June 9, 2022, just 2 days after the murder that shocked the city, Zverian Brent was finally found. He hadn't disappeared without help. Investigators tracked him down to a location where he'd been hiding, aided by someone he knew. For law enforcement, that made her more than just a bystander. She was arrested too, charged as an accessory after the fact, a legal term for someone who helps a suspect escape justice. Brent was officially charged with murder, and the legal process began. South Haven police and local prosecutors now had to prepare a case for trial. Authorities also reviewed communication between Terrencia and Brent, if any still existed, to further support the theory that the murder was premeditated and tied to domestic violence. Throughout the investigation, the central theme became clear. Terrencia had asked for help. She had taken legal steps to protect herself, but in the end, it hadn't been enough. The case shocked and saddened many in the South Haven community. It also started conversations about how domestic violence cases are handled and whether victims who file protective orders are truly kept safe. Brent Allen Brown remained in custody, awaiting trial, and Terrencia's family continued to seek justice. After Brent was arrested and brought back to Mississippi, the legal process began quickly. He made his first court appearance soon after being taken into custody. In court, Brent stood before a judge. He now faced the full force of the law. The judge made an important decision that day. Brent would not be allowed out on bail. That meant he would stay in jail while waiting for trial. The court believed Brent was too dangerous to be released. They were afraid he might hurt someone else or run away again. Prosecutors, the lawyers working for the state, were ready. They started to build a strong case against him. Their goal was to prove that Brent had planned and carried out the murder of Terrencia Jackson. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. This was not an accident or a random act. This was a planned killing. It was done with anger, and it was done on purpose. Because of the way the crime was committed, the state brought the most serious charge possible: capital murder. In Mississippi, capital murder is used when someone is killed during another serious crime, like a home invasion, or when the murder is especially cruel or intentional. It's one of the harshest charges under the law, and it carries the toughest punishments, including life in prison or even the death penalty. Right now, Brent's trial hasn't been concluded yet. He is still in jail, waiting for the next steps in court. No final sentence has been given. That means the court hasn't officially decided what punishment he will receive. But the facts of the case are strong, and the pain he caused is clear. Brent took the life of a 26-year-old woman who was a daughter, a mother, and a friend. Terrencia Jackson didn't just die, she was taken away by violence. Her family is heartbroken. Her neighborhood is still in shock, and the community wants justice. As the trial moves forward, many people will be watching. Some want answers, some want closure, and all of them want to make sure that Terrencia is never forgotten. Despite this heinous crime, we take a look at the possible motive for the killing of Terrencia. Brent was not just a man who committed a terrible crime. He was someone whose mind and emotions had been spiraling out of control long before the killing took place. Looking at what happened, it becomes clear that this crime did not come out of nowhere. It was the result of a deep emotional and psychological breakdown that had been building for some time. Brent and Terrencia Jackson had a troubled history. At one point, they were in a relationship, but over time, it became clear that Brent was unstable. The relationship became toxic. There were signs of jealousy, control, and possible abuse. Eventually, Terrencia ended things and tried to move on with her life, but Brent couldn't let go. According to evidence and what survivors reported, Brent acted with calculated intent. He didn't lash out in a moment of passion. He drove over 200 miles from Alabama to Mississippi to find her. He entered her home by force, and when he found her, he killed her. This wasn't a random act. It wasn't sudden. It was planned. Experts say that in cases like this, the killer often builds up a fantasy of revenge in their mind. The more they think about it, the more real it feels. They believe they've been wronged. They feel powerless, and so they try to take back control in the most violent and final way possible. In Brent's case, that breakdown led him to commit murder. His motive was twisted by personal emotions, broken pride, and a refusal to accept the end of a relationship. His behavior shows signs of possessiveness and emotional instability. Rather than move on, he saw Terrencia's decision to leave as something he couldn't allow. This kind of thinking is deeply dangerous and tragically common in cases of domestic violence. Brent's actions fit the pattern of intimate partner violence taken to a deadly extreme. A man, unable to accept rejection, turns violent, and a woman, trying to live her life freely, pays the price. In the end, Brent didn't just commit a crime. He showed the signs of a man whose mind had collapsed under the weight of his own hatred and obsession. His emotional breakdown became lethal, and his motive, though rooted in personal pain, turned into a horrifying choice: to end someone's life rather than let her go. Terrencia Jackson was only 26 years old when her life was taken. She was a young mother, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. Her future was stolen in an instant by someone who once claimed to care for her. The pain left behind by her murder stretches far beyond her home. It touches her family, her community, and all of us who hear her story. This tragedy is not just about one man and one victim. It shines a harsh light on a problem that affects people everywhere: domestic violence and intimate partner abuse. Terrencia did what many women are told to do. She walked away, she tried to protect herself, and she filed a restraining order. But even then, it wasn't enough to stop the violence. Her death is a painful reminder that more needs to be done. We must listen more closely to victims when they speak up. We must treat signs of obsession, control, and threats with the seriousness they deserve. When someone takes legal steps for protection, we must ensure those steps truly offer safety. And as a society, we need to look deeper at how we handle mental health, emotional abuse, and early warning signs in relationships before they turn deadly. This case also reminds us that justice doesn't always bring healing, but it can bring change. Let Terrencia's story be a call to action. If you or someone you know is in a dangerous relationship, please speak out. Seek help. Support those trying to leave. No one should have to live in fear, and no one should lose their life for wanting to be free. Terrencia Jackson mattered. Her life mattered, and it's up to all of us to make sure that what happened to her doesn't happen again. Thank you for watching. If Terrencia's story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more powerful true stories that matter.